before we start, I have a question. How many of you in this audience play an instrument? Any kind? Anybody? Anybody else? Okay. A kazoo, it doesn't matter. Any kind of instrument that you play. How many of you can sing? How many of you are shower singers? Well, this event that's on the screen right now, Community, is happening this Sunday from 4:30 until 6 p.m. at Norfolk Scope. And what this is an opportunity. It came out of what happened in Charlottesville a year ago. And the city of Norfolk wanted to come together and create an opportunity for people to just, of all walks of life, of all races, all ages, just to come together and to be able to share with one another and to put aside differences and come together as one. So this is the second year. It's called Community. It's a play-in and a sing-in. And what happens is the symphony orchestra will be at Scope, and if you want to play with the symphony, you just bring your instrument and you sit down and you play. If you want to sing with the chorus from the symphony, you just go stand up and you sing with them. Or if you just want to come and listen to the beautiful music, it is a lot of fun. There we go. So tonight we have a lot to get accomplished, and that's why this meeting is a 3-hour meeting. And we're going to keep things moving, but I want to explain again as we did last time. As you all know, we have applied for what is called a CNI grant, a Choice Neighborhoods Initiative grant, $30 million that will help towards the redevelopment of the St. Paul's area. There is a process that has to happen in order for our application to be accepted, and hopefully that we will win this application. So this meeting is threefold, okay? First, we're going to unveil, as we promised last meeting, the full plan for the revitalization, what we envision it looking like. Secondly, we're going to tell you more about People First. And then thirdly, the people from Tidewater Gardens, who live in Tidewater Gardens, will find out about relocation and your rights and responsibilities surrounding relocation. Now, there's an order that we have to do this in, okay? So I really want your undivided attention, please, for the presentation. We will go through it, we'll keep it moving, but it is very, very important that you pay attention because it will inform you in terms of making decisions about where you'd like to live moving forward. But first, I want to introduce Susan Perry. She is the Special Assistant to the City Manager for the Reduction of Poverty, and she has been in charge of the People First initiative, and she's going to share some information with you.
Good evening, everyone. Good evening. As Barbara said, we have a lot to get through tonight. I'm leading a team that's made up of staff from NRHA, the city, residents from Tidewater Gardens, Young Terrace, and Calvin Square on an initiative called People First. And so while we have a lot to get through tonight, and we're going to begin with things that are very much about the physical things, right? What the buildings look like, what the roads are going to look like, what the park looks like that's going to help prevent the flooding. What we want you to know is that these are parallel tracks, right? And so while those things are very important because you told us where you live matters, right? What the housing looks like, the fact that you want to live in a neighborhood that doesn't flood, that's safe, that's easy to walk around, that's very important to you. But nothing is more important in our city. There's no more valuable asset than our people, you and your families. And so we're going to talk more in more detail about what People First is and how that's going to work with you and your families over the coming years as we work through this revitalization process. But I just want you to know that as you're listening to the physical things in the beginning, as you hear about the housing coming down and new housing going up and where the park is going to be, that you know that these are parallel tracks, that there is going to be an initiative called People First that's going to work with you throughout this process. And so we'll talk about that first, but I just want you to have that in the back of your mind as you hear about the physical things first. Thank you.
Okay, so People First through the whole thing. If you guys would do me a favor also, can you turn your cell phones down or off so that everyone can hear the full presentation? That would be really awesome. So tonight, what's going to happen. Introductions and expectations, obviously, I've already laid those things out for you. Then we're going to hear about the master plan vision. So this is where you get a chance to see what the new community could potentially look like, all right? Then the introduction of the housing lead. This is the company that, through an RFP process, won the opportunity to actually build the houses. So you're going to meet that team this evening. And then you're also going to talk about catalysts for community growth. We're going to talk about not only the houses, but how are we going to pull the whole community together? What are the amenities? What are the things that can happen in your community to make it a holistic community? Then People First, Susan and Kim will talk about that. And then the relocation, demolition sequence, and personal points of contact, which I know you guys are dying to get to, and I get that. All right, here's some things to think about. First and foremost, there is a card in your seat along with a pencil, right? Please use that to write down any questions that come to mind during the presentation. We will not take questions until the end of the presentation. So I don't want you to forget a question that you may have early that that you won't get a chance to ask until a little bit later. So that's what those cards are for. If you need an additional card, raise your hand, we'll get you an additional card. Okay, but please write down your questions. We will take all questions at the end of the presentation. So with that, everybody all on the same page? We all good? Yeah. All right then, let's get started with Torti Gallas and Troy and Tom.
Thank you, Barbara, and I want to just say good afternoon, everyone. Once again, I'm Troy McGee, and this is Tom Gallas with Torti Gallas Partners, and we've been hired as the architect and planners for this team to help with the CNI grant and help establish the master plan vision. And we just can't say it enough. There is this importance of people, housing, and neighborhood. These three categories, because it's not just about the sticks and the bricks and the mortar, but it's also about people and neighborhood and how you improve Norfolk as a whole. And so we just want to make sure that you got to have a balance of the three for a transformation of this vision and also to win this planning grant. And just so we're all on the same page, this is the boundary. This is St. Paul's Boulevard located here, Tidewater Drive here. And you can just see how it extends up to Old Huntersville, where you have the railroad tracks located in this area here. So you can see it's covering a pretty good sized area, but it goes back to making a large enough of an impact so that it only not improves the lives here, but you're just talking about the area as a whole. These are the previous, these are images of previous efforts that have been done, as well as recent, where we've come together. We've worked together to establish 7 design principles, and you will see that. You can actually see it if you can see this board here, where that's characterized here, and then also in previous studies. But just to show that the planning efforts that we've had in place, we've been here listening, and we're just keeping that on track as we continue to go through this process. And then I just want to orient everyone. This is an interpretation of the vision that we've established to this point. Just to orient everybody, this is St. Paul's Boulevard here. Tidewater Drive is located here. You can see the highway here. And then this is Wood Street here. Just want to point out some of the churches here. We're in this church here. And then you have First Baptist here. And then you have Wood Street Baptist here. And then St. John's located here, as well as the Transit Center. So while we've established this vision, these are things that we know are community assets to this neighborhood that will remain. So we've built around those strong community assets to still accomplish this vision.
And so the only thing I was just going to say is you move closer to St. Paul, trying to create a character that reflects more the character of downtown Norfolk, as well as building opportunities to build on the other side of St. Paul as well, so that you get full integration across both sides of St. Paul.
I'd like to just walk you through some of the layers of this vision, and these reflect the layers that and the principles that you as a community came together to guide us. So one of the ideas was that we needed to create a resilient community, one that understood and could deal with the rainwater and the flooding conditions of Tidewater Gardens and the community. And so we are seeing the community as sort of a hand that is being wrapped by this green bracelet that surrounds the community. So there's a place for the water to go, and there's a place where people can go, so that we're not in flooding areas, but we're building outside the flood areas. Another point was you asked us to create a diverse mix of housing types. And so, housing for families in this area, and then housing for higher density 1 and 2 bedroom apartments, housing for seniors, housing for families, housing for singles, housing for seniors raising children. So all of those housing choice options are going to be available as part of this vision. We also, you told us that St. Paul's is kind of a divider, and we need opportunities for both being able to cross that divide. And so we have a site down here next to the Marriott and right downtown across the street from the Courts building that is part of our vision, as well as you asked us to have employment opportunities in the community. Finally, you asked us to bring back Church Street as sort of the heart of the community. And so this is Church Street, and you're seeing a mix of buildings that may have commercial uses on the ground floor, housing above, other kinds of services, possibly healthcare, training, life skill kinds of opportunities, all of those reflected in this vision. And so altogether, you see how those layers add up, and your input to this vision is what helped us create this tremendous transformative vision for the St. Paul's area. We've talked about before how significant stormwater is in the community, and we pulled these maps from history that show here in the purple where it used to be called Newton Creek. So there was literally a creek where a large percentage of what's now Tidewater Gardens and Calvert Square used to be in what was a creek. This outline shows Tidewater Gardens, and roughly half the housing in Tidewater Gardens is what's now in the 100-year floodplain. And so our goal is going to be build back not in the floodplain, but in the areas outside the floodplain, which include other sites adjacent to the property and in the surrounding area. And I'll walk you through those. So we have identified several sites that Troy will walk you through in a minute that allow us to build replacement housing as well as a mix of housing types and mix of uses in the neighborhood, all focusing outside the floodplain. So we're going to not build back where there's flooding now, but put housing where we can to stay out of that floodplain. So sites like the Snyder Lot, which is on the corner of City Hall Avenue and St. Paul's. Places like the former police station site up here at Virginia Beach and Tidewater Drive. And also the red carpet site. Actually, this is at Virginia Beach, sorry. The former police station site's even further up Tidewater Drive. This we call the red carpet site at Virginia Beach. It used to be a red carpet inn some time ago. And then this is the part of Tidewater Gardens that is outside the floodplain. And then this area here, which we're calling the transit centers, because it all surrounds the current bus station that's there along St. Paul's.
And so we'll just go through some of the images that we've established based on the feedback that we've received from you. So with this first one, again, this is the Snyder Lot, and you can see, just to point out, this is St. Paul's Boulevard right here. This is City Hall Avenue located right here. And this is the court building located here. So this is an opportunity, as Tom had mentioned earlier, where you have this opportunity for housing for singles, for seniors raising children, for small families. And also on the ground floor, you have this opportunity for some businesses or daycare or just some options for non-residential community supportive services. For the red carpet site, also the opportunity to have small apartment buildings that are outside of the floodplain. And also along with this site, if you can see along here, you have the opportunity for townhomes too. So for larger families, as well as for smaller families, for seniors, continue to have that opportunity for housing for all, and as Tom had pointed out earlier, a diverse mix of housing types. And then we have the former police station. Again, this can cater to large family where you have the opportunities for 2 and 3 and 4 bedroom units or townhomes. And then Tidewater Gardens itself, same opportunity with, you can see the housing. It's also of a style that caters to Norfolk that we know. I know, I caught it. I got it. No. All right, but Norfolk, because it's like Broad Creek. Because remember, that was one of the things that was brought up, is that people like Broad Creek, you want the porches and you want things of that nature. So we make sure we capture that character. Wow, tough crowd. Y'all caught me though. I stopped. Okay. All right, so and then just one more of the another example of Tidewater Gardens, where once again you can see the smaller house types, the townhouse types, with the porches, because we know that that's important, as well as the green space.
Another key part of this is where we can, we're trying to save some of the magnificent trees in the community. So and you can see areas of green where we're going to have places where the water can go, where the trees can be there, and then places outside of that for housing. Also, the Church Street. Of incomes, right. So I think Barbara's making a very good point, that what we're proposing here is a mixed income community, that there will be housing for families that are currently living in Tidewater Gardens. It's income based, and so even though it looks like it's for rich people, it's also for people who are going to be paying rent based upon their income. And so even though you may say, wow, that's amazing, it's all about quality. So you asked us on Church Street to make it the heart of the community. So our vision here is to start to bring back some of the commercial activity as well as housing on Church Street, which will be a center of activity for the community. And then at the Transit Center, this is an image of the Transit Center, if you can see it. We have that green area that is going to come from the large park and greenway that will be an active and passive place for recreation and other family activities, and housing for families, housing for singles and small families, housing for seniors, all near the Transit Center along St. Paul's. And then this is at the corner of St. Paul's and what we hope to be a new street called Freemason Street East. As you know, Freemason stops on the west side of St. Paul's. And you asked us to make connections across, because that is a divide that needs to be broken up. And so that's what this represents, and we envision hopefully someday a market, a food market or grocery store here with job training and education and other supportive service activities in this building, along with housing for all different needs, from singles, seniors, and families. And what I'd like to do now is invite Peter Levy and Jolene Saul from the Brinshaw Development Company, who will talk about their work together.
Thank you. Aren't those great images? What do you guys think? I'm Peter Levy, as has been mentioned, from Brinshaw Development. And who's got the clicker? Okay. Can you do this? Go to the next slide. I may make the mistake of saying that I'm from Chicago here, and I know you guys are from Norfolk. And I say that because we are not coming from halfway across the country because we think we know what's good for you here. We have a mission to build great communities, strengthen what's already there by collaborating with the community and with the stakeholders, with the churches, with the institutions, with the city, with the housing authority. It becomes everybody's project, not our project. So I hope you'll be a little bit kind if we're coming and we don't know everything to begin with, and we're going to start talking to everybody and making sure we know you and understand what it is you're looking for. As I say, our mission is to strengthen communities through collaboration. And we believe in mixed income development as an economic tool to bring better communities, and we're going to work with you over the coming months, years, and decades to make this community great. Next. Yes, okay, so yes. We have worked with a lot of housing authorities across the country, and we are coast to coast now. We have projects as far west as Arizona, and this is as far east. But we really specialize in Chicago, and we've worked on some of the toughest projects in the United States. How many people remember the TV show Good Times? Okay. Chicago, Cabrini Green. I just finished a project at Cabrini Green, and we're doing a next one. We're also the developer at the Robert Taylor Homes and the Henry Horner Homes, if you've ever heard of that. So we are not shy at working in communities that have great potential like this one. We work closely with housing authorities, cities, and institutions to improve communities. That's something that we're all about. We're about partnering. And we also have a philosophy, you can go to the next slide, which is that we have to include everyone. If the plan doesn't work for anyone, it doesn't work for everyone, which is why it is so important to collaborate. We need to hear all of your voices and to get you to have input in what we're doing so we can implement the right thing. And it's not just that we get your input during the planning, it's also through the implementation, the building and construction, and it's through the property management when it's ongoing operations. We need you guys to be the eyes and ears for us because you're in the community telling us what's going on out there. Okay, next. And how do we do this? We have community meetings like we're having here. We have meetings with all the institutional partners and social service agencies and city agencies and everybody. But most importantly, we want to get youth involved. We do things like give youth cameras so that they can take pictures of the good, bad, and the ugly and show us what's going on out there in the community so that we have an idea. We like to show images like you're seeing here and get your views on whether or not we're in the right direction. And you tell us up or down, are we making the right decisions? The other thing we do is we work with resident organizations. I understand that Tidewater Gardens has a resident organization, and we will be working with you to bring you in on the ground floor so that we're working to make sure that your ideas are being incorporated into the development and that you're helping us recruit people for jobs on the site and that you're identifying businesses that could be contracting. And this is really important for us. The last thing is, I wanted to say something about mixed income development. Mixed income is really important, and it is not being done enough in the United States. Probably the biggest problem facing the United States right now is that people are divided by income. What we're doing is not easy, and you have to be really strategic and really deliberate about what you're doing. So we will create opportunities for people across the income spectrum to get together and to make relationship and get them working. I just threw up a couple of pictures up here and I wanted to tell you about our property over at Cabrini Green right now. We put beehives on the roof and we've got people from all over coming and tending the bees and collecting the honey and working to bottle it and create the bottling, the messaging that goes with it. It's really been wonderful. We have community gardens where we're getting old and young, all kinds of people who work together on gardening. We have yoga classes, which are attracting people from all across the spectrum. And it's really been uplifting to see how well this has been received. So we will do these kinds of things here in this community to bring people together. Next slide. But most importantly, this is the most important slide. We understand that this redevelopment will generate lots of economic opportunities. And we want to make sure that those benefits stay in the community as much as humanly possible. And we say this for two different ways. We say that there will be contracting opportunities to do all kinds of work on this development. And we want to make sure that the local businesses have an opportunity to get in on the ground floor and to take advantage of these contracting opportunities and to work on this site. And we also know that there are people in the community who want jobs, and they want career jobs. They don't want just temporary work. And we want to make sure we're working with people to figure out what it is they want to do and help them achieve their goals to get careers. And I just want to throw up, if you go to the next slide, just a couple of examples of what I'm talking about and some of the things we've done in the past. This gentleman over here is a guy named Razzie Watson. He lived across the street from one of our developments in Chicago, and he was interested in the construction. And we hired him as a community liaison, but he was interested in being a superintendent. So we made him a superintendent, an assistant superintendent, and he worked on that job. He was so good that we brought him to our next job and our next job after that. And he's made a career out of construction. Another woman was hired in an architecture firm that we were working for. She started working the front desk, answering phones as a receptionist. She liked the architect field so much that she's now enrolled in architecture school, and she's going to be an architect. So that's what I'm talking about. I'm talking about not just temporary jobs, but things that can lead to real careers. And that's what we're going to work with you to identify the right people, what they're interested in, and try to make those opportunities available as much as possible. Next slide. Another thing is that we will be doing some single-family new construction homes that are affordable in the community and renovating existing properties. And this is a perfect opportunity for local entrepreneurs to take charge of this. We're going to be trying to identify local entrepreneurs who want to do construction and who can build a house and who can renovate a house. And we're going to give people opportunities as much as humanly possible to be a part of this redevelopment project. And it's not just about bricks and mortar, and I want to turn this over to Jolene Saul so she can tell you more.
Good evening, everyone. So as you heard, we talked a lot about housing, but we know that a community is more than just housing. It is the people, it is the churches, the institutions in the community. So a large part of the grant will go towards housing, but we also want to make sure that we're looking at other parts of the community and looking at this as holistic neighborhood development. And so we're allowed to take part of the choice grant to dedicate it to the holistic part of development and really view it as the glue that holds together the housing component and the people component. And so some of the activities that we're considering and thinking about that would also be informed by the larger community is a catalytic community hub. This would be a space for businesses and universities, community colleges come together and serve the residents in the community. We know that flooding is a huge issue, so a resilient streetscape. We have heritage focused with the streetscape, but I think heritage and history and tradition that has to flow throughout the entire development. It's not just tied to the streetscape, but it should inform everything that we do so that we respect the community and the history of the community here. In terms of economic development, career-based employment training so that people, not just for the housing that's being built here, but beyond, have opportunities for employment and long-term careers, and micro-lending for small businesses and overall business development. And so for the Catalytic Community Hub, the theme we look at, we call it Earth, so education, art and culture, recreation, technology, and health. And this image here is it's called the Accelerator. It's a concept that we have done in Omaha, and it is actually pretty exciting. So it is a space where We have local universities that focus on health and wellness for the community, educational opportunities. We have small businesses who have a coffee shop or a catering company there. So it's really just a community hub where residents can come and whatever their needs are or wants or desires can be served here. So just some of the images we have, the coffee shop here. It also serves as an event space that can be rented out to have weddings or parties. And then we have some outdoor space that we have film screenings or festivals. So really just a central part of the development that can help connect people and serve needs of the residents. In terms of the resilient streetscape, this is an example from New Orleans, who also deals with intense flooding issues. And so this is just a way through development to this, it's a former industrial site, but it gets over 1 million gallons of water when there's intense flooding and storms. And it connects the French Quarter to a city park. So just how we incorporate throughout the development ways to manage water and flooding. So, so these are some of the things we're thinking of. We will continue in ways. It's the beginning of this process that is ongoing. So hearing what it is that you need and want to see as part of this development. So now Susan Perry from the city is going to talk about People First. And Kim Thomas, I apologize. Didn't mean to leave anyone out.
Well, good afternoon again. So we talked a little bit earlier about People First, and this is People First initiative. So really, first, what is that? And so the city has put $3 million a year into this initiative called People First, and that is an initiative that supports families, right? So it provides all of the supportive services that we've heard from the community meetings that you guys have said are needed. And so, so that looks like a couple of different things. So that work group that I mentioned earlier talked a lot about recruitment and assessment. So the ability for recruiting residents to come in to know the services that are available, and really sitting down with you and your family and understanding what are the goals that you're trying to achieve, what are the challenges maybe in achieving those goals, and how can we fill those gaps. It's also this individualized case management, right? So it's really understanding what goals you have for your family and how can we connect you to services we're calling transformative human services that would help you reach those goals. So that's anything from education and training, employment, housing stability, all those things that increase economic mobility. Health and wellness, we've heard, is very important. And then it also includes relocation services, which I'll talk about a little bit more in a minute. And so Kim's going to talk about the things, the staff that we already have in place to assist with these People First services, but we know that that's not going to be enough. And so that $3 million is going to help bring on additional manpower, if you will, that will procure the highest quality services that we can get for that $3 million a year. And so we wanted to lay out values, right, of things that anybody who comes in here and works with residents would adhere to, that were really important to us and that we've heard from the community meeting. So first and foremost is just a commitment to quality, right? There won't be any practicing on people's lives. So we have to know that people have a commitment to quality and that they've done this before and been successful in those outcomes. And that they're treating residents with respect and trust were other things that we heard that were really important. And then inclusiveness. So of the service providers that are already in the area, right? So of the churches that are already providing a lot of these services, of the various nonprofit organizations, that they would incorporate all of those into this system, so that you're not having to go from one place to the next for various services, that they're organizing and coordinating all of those things so that it's a seamless process for you and your family. And then the last thing was really important is local knowledge. So even if you're not a local organization, you better figure out what Norfolk is about, understand our people, understand Norfolk, and really do some research and partner with some local folks so that you understand that. And then this was the mobility services slide that I talked about. And so this is really ensuring that we're with you every step of the process. So before you move, we're going to be, we're not asking anybody to move tomorrow. So there's time for us to really begin working with you now and preparing you for that relocation or whatever your choice of housing option is. Really, again, understanding your goals and your needs for your family, and then helping connect to those services that help you meet those goals. So that's really all of that's going to happen even before the first move happens. During the move, we're also going to be with you, and so that's going to be, how do we help you locate housing that works for your family? How do we be that liaison to the landlord, to the property manager? How do we ensure that the move itself is as smooth as possible? And so that's going to be connecting to different resources. It's going to be helping with financially with that relocation, and helping you with any of those things that might make the move difficult or might make it difficult for you to find housing, like if there are credit issues, or if you need to get identification so that you can sign leases and that sort of thing. We're going to do all of those things before the move and during. And then it's important for us to stay with you after the move as well. And so it's not just going to be once you get relocated. You might find somewhere along the way, maybe you get behind on a utility bill, or maybe you lose a job and you need to connect back to services. So we're going to make sure that we're staying with you then and ironing out any issues. So I mentioned that $3 million the city has put aside each year, that's to stay with families for 3 to 5 years after the move. And so we're going to make sure that we're sort of with you all through this whole process. I'll hand it over to Kim to talk to you a little bit more about what's available now.
So a lot of what's been discussed this evening has dealt with what's to come, or what's proposed to come. But I want to tell you about what is available today, August 22nd, 2018. So a couple of things are going to happen today before you leave this room if you choose to stick around for the entire presentation. And I promise we're getting towards the end, because the last person up to bat is probably the most important information for the night, which is relocation information. The basic concept here is tonight you want to make sure that everybody who is in phase 1, and you will see the phasing in the next presentation, walks out of here having a personal point of contact. The reason we want to give you a personal point of contact is because if you start having questions or you want to address issues that we're going to get into in a few seconds, we want you to have that person that is going to be there to pick up the phone to respond, and not to have you guess who you talk to, okay? So what's going to happen after we convene the meeting, at the very back here of the room, there's a sign that says Client Services. There will be tables set up that have the name of the streets in the Tidewater Gardens community. We're going to ask that you go to your street name and connect with that person. The person sitting at the table is likely going to be the person you would have as your personal point of contact. We are going to make sure you get some information so you will be able to actually contact the person, and also gather more information about client services that are available today. As Susan talked about, the RFP, or request for proposal, goes out. I look for a big firm to come in and do some intense stuff, but NRHA has been doing client services for well over 25 years, and we will continue that practice. Some of the things that we offer assistance with: workforce development, folks are looking for a job; transportation, we actually get folks to and from work for free every day. We do about 4,000 rides a year. Family self-sufficiency, for those families who maybe have home ownership as a goal, this would be the program you want to enroll in, so that we can help you bank your rent money as you're still paying rent to go towards your down payment on your new house. That is a real program. Youth services, we have youth services here. Economic opportunities for folks who want to start their own businesses. Health and wellness, we have quite a few folks that we've talked to who said, you know what, I just want to live healthier or be more active. We have some great opportunities there. And financial counseling. These services will be offered by both NRHA staff and our community partners because we recognize that we cannot do this without the totality of the community pitching in. Again, we will procure the highest quality organization to give a boost to our extensive services. So again, August 22nd, the services we just went over are available tonight. We are encouraging people to sign up. Things that you may want to work on, if you need to get an ID, work on your credit report, or your credit, obtain new employment, more employment, better employment, whatever it may be, we're urging you to sign up tonight at the back tables. And I just wanted to further the point that we need to continue to hear from you. September 17th is a hard deadline for us to get the application to HUD. But we need to continue to hear from the residents. We'll be conducting community surveys tonight to get information from you. It's only going to help us determine where we need to direct our resources and services to meet the needs of the community. Again, you'll be, if you're in phase one, you'll have the personal point of contact that will be assigned tonight. There's the People First info line, 314-2000. The community meetings will be hosted monthly by the Tenant Management Council or TMC. The TMC office on Mariner will have flags and displays so everybody knows where the TMC office actually is. And we newly erected a bulletin board near the property management office just this week. So information about the next step, what's happening next, will actually be posted on that bulletin board, including information from tonight. Relocation activities are anticipated to begin in the summer of 2019. So it is not too early, didn't say too late, it is not too early to get started on getting your affairs in order so that when it's time to transition to whatever your housing choice is, we've addressed the things with you that need to be addressed. And don't pack yet. Next, Donna Mills will wrap it up with relocation.
Good afternoon, everyone. So I get to talk to you tonight about relocation, and this seems to be the topic of discussion at all the meetings that we've had so far. So we're going to talk about relocation rights and responsibilities. I'm going to give you the sequencing for the relocation plans before we break up after question and answer so you can actually talk to your point of contact. So we're going to stay here after I'm done. We're going to do question and answers, and then we will have you break out and talk to your personal contacts. Right, I got the break button. Okay, so the redevelopment is going to require the demolition of all 618 units here in Tidewater Gardens. So that means all of the families will need to relocate. We are going to apply for for both a Choice Neighborhood Implementation Grant, which is part of these workshops and charrettes that we've been having with you. That's the application that's due in September. And we're also going to apply for a demolition application with HUD that we are anticipating submitting in October of this year. If and when we receive HUD approval for the demolition, we will start the relocation process. And that's when you'll start being discussed with you your choices for your housing. And at the bottom, and you'll see this through a lot of the slides, don't start packing. Okay? What we have found in past projects with relocation, as soon as we start talking about it, residents start packing and they're living with boxes. We don't want y'all to do that. So we will let you know when it's time to pack, but don't start packing yet. We talked about the application, again, September and October timeframe for those two applications to be submitted to HUD. As mentioned earlier, the demolition is anticipated to begin in early 2019. And first relocation for phase one of Tidewater Gardens around summer of 2019. So as Ms. Thomas mentioned, if there are some areas you need to work on, you have about a year to do so. So that's plenty of time for us to get you to where you need to be for your move. And then overall, we feel that the demolition and relocation phasing will take between 3 and 5 years for all of Tidewater Gardens. And again, what's that bottom one say? Don't pack yet. Okay, so the biggie is relocation choices, one of the biggies. So you have the first main choice that you're going to be asked to make is, do you want to return to or stay in the St. Paul's area when you're asked to first move? If you do, you will have two options for your temporary move. One is to go into another public housing unit in one of our other communities, or you can take a housing choice voucher and move elsewhere in the city or outside the city. That is your choice, and that would be a temporary decision because your ultimate plan is to come back to the St. Paul's area. If you don't want to come back to the St. Paul's area, you have the same two choices, but this will be a permanent choice. So you would either go into another community that NRHA has, or you will go to a housing choice voucher location. That is your choice. So when we start meeting with you one-on-one, this is going to be one of the first questions we're going to want to know is, what is your housing choice? Now, you can make a decision now, but you have a right to change it. So until we tell you this is your final choice, you can change that choice as we're going through this process. We also will allow you, if you go to the Housing Choice Voucher Program and it doesn't work for you, you will have a right to come back to public housing and we will locate a unit for you. So that will be an option for you as well. Whatever your choice is, your rent will still be based on your income. You will still pay 30% of your income towards your rent. So whether you go to a voucher, you go to another community that we have, your rent will be based on your income. So some of the benefits for relocation, and this was discussed right before me through Susan and Kim. A lot of this you'll see with People First rolls out, but we will start working on this and providing this information to you now moving forward. But we will be responsible for all of your moving costs. And this is for your initial move and for those of you who want to come back, for the move to come back. So that includes your moving costs, your actual move-in expenses for your furniture to be moved, utilities that need to be switched over. If you have cable, you need to switch cable over to the other unit. We'll pay for that. We will also loan you money to pay your deposits, your security deposit for your landlord, utility deposits. We will be providing funding for that as well. We'll provide transportation to help you go out and look for units throughout the city of Norfolk. And we have relocation specialists, senior relocation specialists here tonight that will be working with you throughout the process, as well as the staff that comes on as part of the People First efforts. Some of the obstacles that we see when we're working with other residents for relocation are listed here. Rent payment history, especially if you're going to the voucher program, you have private landlords that you're dealing with. They're going to be looking at your rent payment history, your credit report. So you need to make sure that those are in order. And now is the time to start working on those. So if you've had some challenges, this is the time that we need to start looking at that and helping you work toward improving those. If you're going to the voucher program as well, a lot of the units, you will be responsible for your utilities. So you need to make sure that you don't have any past due old utility bills or that you're going to have a problem getting utilities in your name. So that's something we need to start working on as well. Criminal history and then search time sometimes can be a concern depending on how selective you are where you want to go to locate a unit. And again, I mentioned this earlier, but I just want to point out again that you can have the option of staying in Norfolk, or you can port your voucher out to anywhere else in the United States that will accept the voucher. And the last thing is very important, begin working with your resident service or client service specialist to address any possible issues that you may have now. So what to expect? Relocation phase 1, and we'll get to the phases really quick so you'll know exactly where you're at, and you will find that out before you leave tonight. But those residents, as mentioned earlier, that are in phase 1 will be assigned a personal contact person tonight. You'll get their name, their card, phone number, so that you can contact them at any time after we leave the meeting this evening. So they're going to answer questions throughout the process, help you with those repair items, addressing any lease concerns that you might have, advise you of your rights and responsibilities under the relocation, and conduct a self-sufficiency assessment. And that's going to help us figure out what resources you need to help you get to where you want to be. They're going to coordinate service referrals. If it's something that we can't provide, we will do a referral to our partner agencies, and of course keep you informed throughout this process of what's going on. For those that are in relocation phases 2, 3, and 4, what you need to do right now is continue to work with your resident services specialist, which is Miss Wanda Green, and she's here somewhere. So hopefully all of y'all know Wanda. So she can do the same things that we just talked about, help you with credit repair, answer questions that you have, make referrals if you need that for services and programs. Everyone in all of the phases, before you are required to move, we are required to give you a 4-month notice. That is the final notice prior to your relocation move. So 4 months prior to that date, you will receive a notice from the housing authority that your time starts at that point. And then we'll really beef up what we're working with you on to help you locate the unit based on the choice that you have made. Throughout this time, we're going to continue to have meetings. We're going to have individual meetings with the residents. We're going to have group meetings as well. We have identified residents in our other communities where we've done relocation that have gone through this process that are going to come out and talk to you so you can hear from a resident's perspective how this works and what you should look out for and information you need to know. And then what's the last thing? Don't start packing yet. We're not quite there yet. Some of your responsibilities during this time, the main one is, of course, you need to remain compliant with your lease agreement. Keep paying your rent. Make sure there's no lease violations. Report your changes as you're required. Come in and do your annual recertification that's required every year by HUD. Don't have unauthorized occupants. So remain lease compliant as we proceed through this process. And one important item is that in order for you to receive all of the relocation benefits and services that we've talked about, you have to be a resident in Tidewater Gardens. So if you decide to move out on your own prior to us getting to your relocation phase, you would lose any of those benefits that you're entitled to. So make sure that you stay with us and let us work with you through this relocation process. And again, don't start packing. And then just to let everyone know that you do have a right to appeal any decision that we make regarding the relocation process. If you're not happy with the decision on this process, there is an appeal step, and we will inform you of how to do that once we get to those steps. So we have some pictures here of some private housing throughout the city of Norfolk. These housing accept vouchers. So these are some options that are out there if the housing choice voucher is a choice for you. So you can see different variety. They look really nice. Here's some other examples. And then these are examples of NRHA housing that we have. And this is the biggie, right? The phasing. So there's 4 phases planned for the relocation demolition. Phase 1 is in the red. There's 187 apartments in that phase. You can see it's down part of City Hall and up between Fenchurch and Chapel. Phase 2 is the yellow. And that's between Mariner, Ruffiner, and that's 193 apartments located in Phase 2. Phase 3 is the green area around Holt Street, 116 apartments there. And Phase 4 is between Charlotte and Walk, and there's 122 apartments there. And as we stated, when we break up after the question and answer, you will be able to find out exactly where your address, I know it's hard from this map for some of you to figure out where your unit may lie, but they will be able to tell you that in the back of the room. And again, you will need your personal contact, and we have the contact information up here as well.